Ever heard of a podcast called Past Week, Next Week?
Can't say I have.
Yeah, me neither. Well, our AI dug it up. It's from March 9th, 2025, like a little time capsule, you know?
Oh, wow.
Three friends, Chris, Paul, and Boogie, just riffing on the news and pop culture.
Sounds fun.
Oh, and there's this fourth voice, the texter, throws in some pretty hilarious comments.
Interesting. A mysterious texter. So what are we diving into with this one?
Well, the AI thought their whole dynamic was so interesting, it flagged the episode for a deep dive. Plus, it gives us this, window into what people were talking about 5 years ago.
Makes you wonder what people 5 years from now will think about us.
Right. What'll be the big stories then. But anyway, we'll be following their format, talking news, pop culture. They even have this segment called Headlines and Predictions.
Headlines and predictions. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so they always start with the song that symbolized the week for this one. The Beastie Boys remake of I'm Down, the Beatles song.
Interesting choice.
On the surface, yeah, just a fun song, right?
Yeah.
But they actually use it to comment on the stock market, which had just taken a dip.
Clever. I like it.
They throw in this joke, too, about how Paul's sister's friend once mistook him for having Down syndrome. Now, they always claim that's the answer to their song quiz.
Oh, no.
I know, it's silly. But it shows you how they connect with their audience. Okay, now, Chris was just back from a business trip to New York.
Ugh, business trips.
All this meetings. Stressful, right? But he did manage to see a musical parody of Seinfeld off-Broadway.
Wow, Seinfeld. Still going strong even 5 years ago.
And get this. His flight almost got delayed because his last meeting ran late.
Been there.
That panic, watching the clock, you're stuck.
The worst.
His colleague even joked about faking a heart attack to hold the plane.
Oh, my.
Just a joke, of course. But you can feel the stress. And because of all that, Chris missed his niece's performance as an eel in The Little Mermaid at her school.
The joys of work-life balance.
Now, this episode marked Boogie's return. He'd missed the previous week, got sick.
Oh.
But there were all these rumors he was talking to other radio stations.
Juicy.
They address it head on. With a surprise announcement, Boogie has been named the franchise player for 2025, locking him in for another year.
Well played.
And to celebrate his return, Boogie shares some movie recommendations. Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal. He says it's weird, intense. He also recommends The Watcher, compares it to Hitchcock's Rear Window.
Sounds like a thriller fan.
Chris jumps in too with a recommendation, Babes with Abby Jacobson.
Oh, I'll have to check that one out.
Paul, on the other hand, spent his week dog sitting. 3 dogs. Aging Gilly, new puppy named Olive, and Blue, who was not happy about the puppy.
I can imagine.
He did manage to watch all 3 Equalizer movies.
Oh, yeah.
Highly recommends them. Tried to watch The Pope of Greenwich Village, but said it didn't hold up.
Interesting. Some movies age better than others.
Okay, get this. The hosts actually listened to an AI deep dive of their own show. They were blown away by how the AI talked about them like they were ancient history, even though the episode was only a few hours old.
Whoa, meta.
Right. They were impressed by how the AI captured the personality of the texter. Speaking of which, you'll be hearing from the texter soon. But first, they aced the Slate News quiz. All 5 questions.
Well, look at them, all informed.
They tackled Trump's claim of lowering prices, using the declining stock market as proof.
Talk about irony.
They also discussed Trump's State of the Union address.
Oh, this, I gotta hear. What did they think?
Especially his focus on trans athletes and school policies. They bring up that debunked story about a trans volleyball player causing injury, and a lawsuit filed by parents against a school for accommodating their child's gender identity. It was later dismissed.
Always a hot-button issue.
You can tell they're frustrated with the spread of misinformation and what they see as the Republicans' hypocrisy regarding decorum in Congress, especially after the incidents involving, during Biden's addresses.
Yeah.
Now, get ready for this. They play this clip from Canada, a woman passionately defending her country against what she sees as American arrogance. It went viral, too.
Wow. Okay. Strong feelings there.
And then, buckle up, because they play a clip of a grandmother, Nana Anderson, calling the wrong number to wish her grandson a happy birthday.
Oh, I love these kinds of things.
Me too. It's so heartwarming.
Little moments of humanity.
Exactly. And they were initially going to poke fun at the call, but they ended up connecting with Nana Anderson live on air to make sure her grandson got his birthday message.
Oh, that's so nice.
Right. Okay, we're moving into a segment where they review trailers for upcoming podcasts.
Oh, podcast trailers. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
They cover a wide range, from Late Night with Nexo, which sounds kind of cool, to a hilarious one called Cramped. They poke fun at Lovely, a dating podcast. They even pitch their own idea for a podcast called Blue Balls.
Okay, that's funny.
They envision it as like a humorous exploration of that whole, thing. They talk true crime too. Snitch City catches their attention. And then they get into watch podcasts, Office Ladies, The Sopranos podcast.
Watch podcasts.
Yeah.
As in podcasts about watching TV shows.
Yeah, exactly. They dissect specific shows. It's interesting how they compare those formats to their own.
Makes sense.
All right, now we're at their signature segment, Headlines and Predictions. They take real news headlines and add their own comedic spin.
Okay, hit me with those headlines.
Well, first up, they tackle Trump's proposed executive order to dismantle the Department of Education.
Ooh, that's a big one.
I know, right? It was huge back then.
I know, right? It was huge back then.
They imagine Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, "Them kids ain't benefiting from all that department. They can learn to be real good smarts from just God and Fox News."
Yeah, fine.
And then they move on to SpaceX's Starship spacecraft exploding.
Yeah, I remember that.
Shortly after liftoff.
It was all over the news.
A major setback for Elon Musk.
For sure.
They joke that the explosion was due to Elon Musk dosing all these SpaceX engineers with quite a bit of ketamine.
Oh, wow.
Then it's onto the stock market, which had been declining amidst uncertainty over Trump's tariffs.
Right.
They point out that the NASDAQ and S&P 500 had dropped significantly since Trump took office.
I see.
And Tesla shares had plummeted as well.
Makes sense.
Their punchline. But hey, at least pre-sliced cheese is more expensive than it was under Biden.
Uh-huh.
Next up, they discuss California Governor Gavin Newsom's controversial statement on transgender participation in women's sports.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
Newsom actually broke with most Democrats on this issue,
I remember that.
calling transgender participation deeply unfair. The hosts clearly weren't buying Newsom's reasoning.
I see.
They suggest that he's just watching how Republicans use the issue politically in order to distract citizens from the dismantling of democracy into an oligarchy system where 90% of the people work 100 hours a week just to get poverty wages.
No.
From politics to pop culture. They then poke fun at Netflix launching a themed restaurant in Las Vegas
Really?
called Netflix Bites. The menu apparently included items inspired by popular Netflix shows like Bridgerton and Stranger Things.
Oh, wow.
And get this, the restaurant actually took over the same spot as a now defunct Blockbuster Bistro.
Oh, wow. Talk about a change.
And finally, they couldn't resist a pun-filled take on camel milk being touted as a potential dairy alternative.
Camel milk.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Research at the time suggested camel milk might be beneficial for immune and gut health because of its unique proteins and lower lactose levels. But of course, the hosts couldn't let that go without a pun, concluding with, many people say it even tastes much better than other milks if you can get over the hump.
Classic.
As the episode winds down, Boogie has to leave early for some family junk.
Oh, no.
Their words, not mine.
Okay.
But before he goes, the hosts express how much they'll miss him. And with Boogie gone, they close out the show with a reminder to practice some us time.
Us time.
Prioritizing self-care and disconnecting from the constant barrage of news and information.
That's good advice.
They also throw in Paul's signature Eyes of March joke,
Oh, yeah.
where he quips that senators are just as likely to stab you in the back any day of the week, not just on the Ides of March. And finally, they close with a reflective note about how this episode captured a unique moment in time, encouraging listeners to consider what resonated most with them.
Interesting. I like that.
Remember Nana Anderson?
The sweet grandma.
Yeah.
One who called the wrong number.
Oh, yeah, trying to reach her grandson.
Well, as they're wrapping up, they get another call.
No way. Nana Anderson again.
You guessed it.
Wow. What did she say?
She's calling to thank them.
Said she found the right number and that her grandson had a wonderful birthday.
That's so sweet. You know, it really shows you how even a small gesture can have a big impact.
Yeah, it's those little moments of connection that matter, especially these days.
It makes you think, what'll they dig up from our time 5-10 years from now?
Right. What'll seem fascinating, weird,
Like, will camel milk still be a thing?
Maybe, but hopefully those little moments of kindness, those will still resonate.
Absolutely.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into Past Week, Next Week from March 9th, 2025.
Time flies, doesn't it?
It really does. But hey, if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, let us know. We might just have another deep dive waiting in the wings. Until then, keep exploring, stay curious, and who knows, maybe we'll be the subject of a deep dive someday.
I'd listen to that.